Hi there, and welcome back to the Hub of Junior Golf Podcast. I'm Ryan Bird, joined as always by the founder of the Junior Golf Hub, Roger Nick. Roger, finally, right? Finally, one of the coldest, worst winters in the Northeast in a long time. I know, because that's where all my family is. And yeah, I like to give them the needle and rub it in that I'm in Florida. But boy, it has been a rough December, January, and February. March just about here, and finally over freezing. It looks like maybe the snow hopefully is stopped for a while. But man, the Masters right around the corner. Obviously, the Florida Swing is here. PGA National this week, Bay Hill, then on to the Players Championship. So it comes at you quick. Calendar doesn't stop for anybody.
Not at all, Ryan. It's been such a great winter in my perspective, for the academy, being inside, working hard on all the things they need to work on, the mental game, the physical game. So it's been a great winter of work for sure, off season. So that's one of the things that we pride ourselves on. That our kids are now actually in Florida and doing their Florida trip, winter trip for 5 weeks, and really ready to play, amped up, ready to play. So it's pretty exciting. But I love the winter. So although I would have to say you guys had some winter down there as well in Orlando.
Well, they only give us winter the week of the PGA show.
Yeah.
I think it's just some evil weather people that are like, you know what, we're going to make this the worst week of the year every year. That was the case this year. Hey, I do want to get some house cleaning done because we have a great guest this week, Roger. But very interesting. Is the only place that we've announced the 6 events for PDI that will ultimately give exemptions for every age group, every spot to the World Championship on Golf Channel at Kashada. It is getting out there. Pretty surprising how many people know about it and are amped up, ready to go. Had a call with PDI and the Junior Golf Hub yesterday, along with the NB3 team, and it is extremely close. There's a couple major D1 coaches that are adding their testimonials to the launch, if you will, Roger. Basically saying that PDI is a massive contributor to their recruiting process, meaning if they go to the rankings and someone has a PDI score, they are going to use that PDI score as part of their decision-making on how they narrow that list down. So it is coming, I promise. I wish it was here last week. It's just not quite ready, but the details on the podcast are out. There will be 6 events in the United States. Everyone in the U.S. and around the world will do a self-guided PDI score that will get you on a worldwide leaderboard that is updated, every couple hours at jgnc.org. That's already going to be wild, Roger, to see everyone on one leaderboard in their age group, and obviously boy and girl. But this is going to be massive, man. I know you're excited.
I'm super excited, Ryan. It's hard to believe. I'm trying to pinch myself here to kind of make sure that I'm not dreaming still. So a lot of excitement, a lot of fun doing this. We think it's going to help out the landscape of junior golfers and college coaches all around the world, right? We forget that there's also colleges elsewhere that do have college golf programs. Interestingly enough, I was talking to someone in Europe who is asking for this as well, because in their country, they're looking for players as well and trying to identify players. So it's not just the U.S. So really exciting and really fun to see this come to fruition. And what you and Noda and your group and organization has done has been amazing. So thanks for the support, and we look forward to helping these players change their lives and trajectory into college golf.
So there will be a lot of questions. Let's take this real quick. As you download the PDI app and you're going to your range or wherever to do your self-guided, is it better to take someone with you, Roger, or is it really self-guided that you could put in your own account? Walk us through the self-guided, please.
Yeah, it is the same as our coach guided, but it is very simple. It is, you just open the app and just go right through the app. It walks you step by step. Step 1, enter your information. Step 2, start recording your data, your shots, right? So it's pretty easy. You've got the mental assessment as well that's in there. So it'll take a few minutes to go through. But the whole thing is going to take you less than 40 minutes. And
Wow.
I mean, for 40 minutes to have the opportunity to possibly get on national TV and show your golf players is a pretty easy thing to do, I believe.
Yeah.
And plus, I think it just gives them such good information, right? So once doing the self-guided, I mean, there's going to be some guidance afterwards, right? It's going to say, hey, here's where you are. Here's some areas that you're really strong in. Here's some areas you're weak in, and give you a suggested plan to work on. So not only that, the real cool thing about it is from the mental side of things is just giving you some information and some guidance there, right? I mean, because we know a lot of junior golfers and parents kind of, oh my God, my kid's choking, coming down the stretch. We hate to use those words. We hate to talk about it that way because kids, it's all experience, right? It's no choking.
Did you see the PGA Tour this week in Mexico?
Yeah, oh yeah, exactly.
If Johnny Miller, Nota Begay was in the 18th tower on Sunday, and we were texting throughout the final round, and I said if Johnny was on Nota, he would have used the choke word 100 times because these were the guys that were going to win the golf tournament, and it appeared that none of them wanted to win. Now, we know that's not the case, but they played their worst golf of the year. The amount of times Nota said that's the worst shot they've hit all week, and that was in the last two holes in the playoff. I mean, the guys just could not get out of their own way. Ultimately, Campbell won.
Yeah.
It's a great story, but that's the highest level. What do you think it's going to be like for a 13-year-old, Roger?
I know. I mean, that we see it all the time, Ryan. These kids coming down the stretch and fumbling and bumbling and realizing that they have a chance to win. Some, kind of handle it really well, which they're oblivious to the leaderboards. But, others who, I hate to say this, and I don't want to keep throwing parents under the bus, but those parents who are very, very scoreboard sensitive start to say, hey, you have a lead. You need to protect this lead coming in. And all of a sudden, these kids start to play like a different game. And it's just not something you like to see with those parents or with the players kind of coming down the stretch and just making a mess of it. But, that's the way it goes sometimes.
That's golf. And we saw it at the highest level. It is tough to close out a tournament, no matter how big or how small. With that, we welcome in our guest. I told you, folks, it is a very special guest, Sam Puryear, the head coach at Howard, became the head coach in April of 2020. Coach, it's an honor to have you on the Hub of Junior Golf podcast. Obviously, you guys are getting ramped up here. I know Roger and I talked about it. It was a bad winter in the Northeast for sure. But finally, I think everybody sees the light. Spring's about here. I know the college golf season rocking and rolling. How excited are you for this spring?
Well, I guess the good thing is, I mean, I'm not a fan of just having super warm, hot weather all the time. I think it's an advantage in some respects to have some cold weather. For a lot of us, I think number one, it forces the young people to put the clubs down, think about their game differently. Work on the different aspects of their game, like the golf psych, strength training, take their mind off of it with some education, and do some of those different things. I think the second part of what I think is it also it builds a little grit. When it's always nice out and you can go out and it's 85 degrees, the grit sometimes is missing. Whereas when it's cold, and this was probably my 5 years here, this has been the worst winter we've had. But I tell you what, though, the level of intention has been higher because we don't take any of the moments, any of the weeks, any of the days. I mean, it's to the point where I said to the kids the other day, like, we know we have an hour and a half. Let's be very intentional with this hour and a half. It's chilly, but that's okay. So it's okay. And we've tried to get really creative. Initially, we tried to go down south. We've been down south now a few times since January. But even we had one trip planned to go south, and it snowed where we were going. So we said, hey, we'll just stay. But it's been okay. It's been to me, adversity only builds character, and it's been great. So I don't have any complaints.
Coach, you've had a lot of success over the years as a coach, as a player. And, one of the things we talk a lot about on the show here with our coaches is How do you translate that into or onto your players as you're recruiting and what you may be looking for? I know it's difficult. I know the landscape out there now has changed so quickly about how players are coming in, transfer portal to where are you recruiting from, international to domestic kids. Tell us a little bit about how you're translating your success or looking for players to help you continue that success for you and the team.
Yeah, I think my favorite two words now going forward, and we talked about this in a late night team Zoom, are intention and guarantees. And to me now, in building a team and working with a team and trying to win, there are absolutely no guarantees. So if you're not very intentional, there are no guarantees you're going to still be around going forward. If you're not very intentional in how you approach your practice and how you set to compete, there are no guarantees we're going to win. And so that being the case, a high level of intentionality and guarantees to me are right now in my world, in my orbit, is what's making the world go round. Because one thing I've seen now too is, initially a young person comes into a program, and I just hear about it at all of my stops, and they'll say, well, I have 2 years or 3 years, maybe I'll party a little bit, maybe I'll do this, maybe I'll do that. And they may think, well, if I miss a practice, what is he going to do? Well, you're going to find out, because there are other programs that have cut back from 12 to 9, which is the same thing we're doing. We're opting in. And so at that point, young people know now you're going to have to do what you're supposed to do, which is what I love, because in some weird way, it really takes 2025 back to 1980. You never approached the team back in the 70s and 80s, and the coach and the program always came first. I think that kind of went away. Now with that level of intentionality and guarantees with some of the stuff that's about to go down, people are going to go back to that. I have to focus on the program. I have to be very intentional about how I approach and how I improve myself, or there is an option I won't be around.
No doubt about that. So Coach, with that being said, how are you finding these young recruits or these young players now, and what are you looking for in those recruits? Because that's a big question that we get all the time on the show is, what are coaches looking for? Now, you being HBCU program, it's one of the best programs in the country. Is it different? Is it the same? What are you looking for? How are you finding these players?
I'll be honest with you. And people say I'm crazy. I'm looking for the same kind of players I look for at Stanford. I won't get them, but I'm looking at them.
Yeah.
and I'm hoping to grab, some of what they get rid of. But at the same time, being an HBCU, I'm trying to find the best team, and I'm not just focused on minorities. I'm focused on the best players I can possibly find. I love to have a high element of minority participation, but I'm at a point now. I'm looking heavy into the JUCO routes. I'm still going into the junior golf realm. I'm still following junior events, but at the same time, I'm more so than ever before. Now you're really watching every college event, because there are a lot of kids on some of those teams that are playing 4, 5, 6 that still might be averaging around 72, 73, 74 that are saying, hey, this guy, their current coach is going to replace him, and I might see that name in the portal. So I'm watching every college event. I'm watching all of the JUCO results, and my entire staff, we're broken down. We're looking at, everybody has a responsibility looking for certain things.
Yeah, Coach, I know, sorry, Ryan, I was just kind of, Coach, I know a big part of the initiative that you have and you have talked about openly is diversity in the game. And I think it's one of those things that what you just said, I think is really important, is that you're looking for the best players to fit on your golf team and hopefully build in, the character at your school. I hear a lot of times, and I work with a lot of underserved communities, and they're thinking HBCU, it's a layup. I can go there and play if I shoot 78, 80. And I'm going, no, you don't understand. Every coach is looking for the best talented players that they can find. What's the message out there for, the community that says, hey, I'm just looking for HBCU program that I can go shoot 80. They're just not going to cut it, right? I mean, give us a little bit of understanding of that.
Yeah, no, they're going to probably have to just go get a real job.
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, that's not how it works. I mean, there's no level of mediocrity that survives in any community around the world. And so the way I look at it is, I can only compare it to my program, but I look at the stroke averages that I've had even entering this year. Last year, we finished the season with uh, two guys had 71 stroke average. One guy had a 70 stroke average. One guy had a 72 stroke average. On the women's side, I had four ladies finish with 74 stroke average, with three of those having scores under par. So as far as I'm concerned, you can find it in the minority world. And I realize too, when I get the normal minority young person, I'm going to have to develop them. So I spend a lot of my time and emphasis and effort and resources into developing. But there's absolutely no way in the world that you think you're going to be successful if you have a team full of 79, 80 shooters, because you can't compete with anyone at that point.
Right.
And that's on the men's side and the women's side. Because I do have, I mean, they always say, less than 1% are going to turn professional, and I actually agree with that. But in the last 4 years, I've had two guys now turn pro, and after this spring, I have two more kids turn pro. So for us in 5 years, we would have had four kids turn pro, and the two that have already turned pro have already won checks, and the next two coming out, they will be able to win some checks. So it shows you that golf is at a high level. And so I'm forced on my end. One thing I've had to do a lot of here at Howard, unlike a lot of places, I've had to teach my administration what it is to have a golf program, because we didn't have one for the past 50 years. And so what that has looked like is, I had to go out and raise money, and I bought TrackMan, I bought GC quads. We're building a performance center on campus now. We found a lot of places where we can do some indoor golf, outdoor golf, working with equipment, the whole 9 yards. We have, outside of just training with our strength coaches, we have another place locally where we go and pay for extra mobility, flexibility, speed training, doing all that type of stuff. So we're doing all the extra things that is taken, because to me, the old adage, the old proverb, it takes a village. Well, I really, in my community, I really believe that. And I'm utilizing that village. And that's not just a minority village, that's a golf village. I'm using the entire golf village to help these young people dreams come true. And like I tell them all the time, I have one kid on the team right now. I know his goal is not to be a professional golfer. His goal is to be the best lawyer he can be. So guess what? I'm doing everything I can to get him into the law school. He's already been accepted in about 20 law schools, and many have offered him full rides. He's that bright of a kid. But hey, I'm like, hey, that's just the first step. Yeah, you've gotten into Georgetown, you've gotten into USC, you've gotten into all those places. But now we want to do the next step after law school. We still want to be here to get you where you want to be that type of corporate lawyer, so you can be that. They laugh at me. I say, so I'm developing you to be the best donor you can be for our program down the road.
Absolutely. Ryan, I think you're on mute.
You got me now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Tiger Woods was supposed to be the big difference, obviously, bringing minorities to the game. And it is a buzzword that, we've had conversations. Nota Begay and I have had conversations. Everyone's quote unquote growing the game. Where do you think golf is at right now with minorities, as far as access to the game and really having what is necessary at their disposal to be in college golf? Because we all know this. College golf is really, I don't care if you grow up in a country club or you grow up in an inner city, it's really hard to play college golf.
Right.
There's an advantage to grow up, but there are thousands and thousands that play college golf because it's really, really tough. Have you seen it in the last 5 years that makes you believe the hurdles aren't quite as high as they've been for the last 50 years?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, so I'll say to your question, first question, you mentioned Tiger. I kind of laughed. I'm happy to say, I sent Tiger and his village an email about recruiting his son. We would love his son to come here and play at Howard.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think what Steph Curry has done, I think what Nota Begay has done, I think that what folks like that have put things into play. You know, Noda has this series going out there. Steph has this underrated series. You're now finding kids that you would have never found before. There are a lot of kids playing and they're not coming up in a quote unquote traditional minority realm, which is, you know, back in the Tiger time, they were saying, well, the first tee was never created to build good golfers. I mean, they've now admitted that. So you don't have a first tee set up producing 100, 200 kids, anything like that. But what you are starting to see, based on just a simple level of socioeconomic pliancy and some of these families being able to requisite where they wanted to put their funding, they're actually finding proper golf pros and proper people to train and give their kids some level of skill sets. So there are kids now all over the place playing golf, minorities. Do I think the numbers have probably gotten as large as I thought they would have gotten? No. But I tell you what, there are some out there that can play. And I think what is starting to happen is, whereas before you would always say, well, we should get the minority kids to go to the HBCUs. I mean, some of the families are saying, why would we go to an HBCU if we're good enough to play at, you know, Stanford or Georgia Tech or Arizona State or a place like that? And I'm okay with that. If you think that that's the realm for your dream to come true and for you to make it on tour, I'm in favor of that. I support it and I love it. If you think you need to go play at a, you know, place like Oklahoma State and you sit the bench and you never get reps, you never get any better, then I kind of find fault with it. Because I think one of the weirdest things that's happened here is we've recruited some minority kids and they turn us down. And then they'll go play at places that are predominantly white institutions and we'll play them and we'll beat them. Mm. And they'll say, wow, you actually do have a pretty good team, coach. And I just die laughing. I said, I tried to tell you. So good luck in your career, you know? So it's one of those type things. For me, it encourages me and makes me work that much harder because I want all those young people, whether they come to Howard or go somewhere else, I want them to have the success that they desired. But at the same time, you wouldn't believe this, but I'll spend a lot of time with families that I know will not come to Howard, but I help them through the process anyway. I mean, a ton of families every single year. They'll call and say, Coach, you know, we appreciate your opportunity, but we want to go somewhere else. I said, great. Let me give you some things to think about. Let me give you some things that you need to do and you need to have in your child's life that's going to help make you better. And I'll be rooting for you along the way.
Coach, as we talk about that and finding players, minority players, and obviously there's more kids in the game, and I think a recent study I saw was somewhere around 15% of minority players.
Yep.
What do you think is the toughest thing or maybe the roadblock that's keeping them from developing into players to play at your level, play at the Howard level, play at the Division I level, or play at any college level? What do you think are some of the roadblocks that you're seeing, and how can we help?
Yeah, great question. I still think a lot of it is cost, expertise, and knowledge. And so the young person will say, hey, I want to play golf, I want to take lessons, and then somebody will say, well, a set of fitted clubs will cost you $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. I give you a discount on a lesson, it might cost you $100. And they're thinking, well, I think I need 3 lessons a week. That's $1,200 a month. Now mom and dad are like, well, wait a minute, I can't afford that. Whereas tennis, I can go to a tennis court with a ball and a racket, or basketball with a ball in the park, or football, I can get some cleats and I can make it. Golf is still an expensive endeavor. And the flip side of that is, you know, access. You know, when some of the young people are trying to get better, people saying, well, here's a public course. Well, I always use this analogy. Imagine going from your living room, putting on carpet and a shag and like old school shag carpet, and you're putting slow on the carpet is rolling at about a 4 or 5. And then you go out to your local private club and the green is rolling at about a 13. The kid is like, what in the world is going on? So being able to expose a young person, and which has also led into a lot of my madness here, is I try to put us on golf courses for practice and to compete, where if they took the next step, they would have already been acclimated to that. Whereas we get in events where they're already playing the best players in the world, and so when they turn pro, there won't be a level of fear factor. You know, it's so great. I give you the perfect example is I see what Luke Clanton is doing right now, and he's playing some unbelievable golf. Well, one of my guys, we played against him in the fall at the Stevens Cup.
Yeah.
Well, one of my guys beat him.
Yeah.
And I said, well, Marcus, I said, wait a minute. This guy is a bona fide tour player in the making. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah.
You've already proven on a very windy course in Oklahoma that you can compete with people like that. Your confidence ought to be that now you can compete with anybody in America. And I think just that level of exposure and acclimation makes a difference too, because a lot of these young people, they just have to know that they can do it.
Yeah, that's right. Coach, I have a question, and it's one of the things I'm very passionate about and helping make a difference, right? I don't know if you're familiar with our golf academy that's in the Ridgefield, Connecticut. We're now opening one in Port St. Lucie. But every year, the last 4 years, we've offered a full scholarship, $100,000 scholarship to minority player.
Wow.
So for 4 years to offer a $400,000 scholarship, if you will. And to date, I've had 0 takers. And one of the things that I really struggle with, and I know to your point of having access and getting, good coaching, quality tournaments, things that obviously is necessary. I just struggle with the idea that I'm working with Montrell Wells right now for the APGA Tour, and he's been working with some families and so forth. But it's very interesting, and we're a diverse academy. I've got plenty of players, black, white, Asian. It's all over the place, right? But I've had 0 takers in 4 years, and working with some great people in the organizations that are trying to make that change. But what can we do to make that happen differently?
Well, I got to be honest with you. I mean, that's first of all, that's kudos to you to even offer something like that. Secondly, my first question really would be, do people even know about it? Because I didn't know about it. I didn't know you were offering 100. I mean, so because I'm sure if I had it in front of me, I could send it out to families or mention it to people in crossing just to gauge people's interest. Now, I had a parent call me. It's great timing. I had a parent call me yesterday. She sent her kid to boarding school. He loves golf, yada yada. She's picking my brain. What can he do to get better? Yada yada yada. I mean, there are parents out there that would be willing to do it if they know it existed.
Yeah. It is interesting. We do put it out there. We post it. Mark Lowry, who's a good friend of mine, who's a National Player Development Organization, been at the many summits, minority summits, and have spoken and done a lot there with Michael Cooper and Dr. Cooper. And it's been interesting road, and it's obviously we still are passionate and love to do this. So yeah, if you have any families, we would definitely like to get it out there and support them. Yeah, it's great. It's a great opportunity for a lot of players. I grew up down south. I grew up in Danville, Virginia, not far from you, and you were in Winston-Salem, right?
That's right. I know Danville quite well.
Yeah. So I was I was a very poor kid, and I got had great opportunities given and helped me and mentors and so forth. So it's very fortunate we have an opportunity to give back. So it's something I'm very passionate about and doing. So any help there would be, greatly appreciated. And, I know Ryan and Noda have been great supporters of what we're doing with NB3. And I don't know if you've heard of the Player Development Index, and we spoke at the College Coaches Convention this past year, but colleges are looking at that as a way to recruit players, and it's what all of our players that go through our academy, which is a boarding school, they go through every year, and we see as their PDI score goes up, their golf scores go down. Not only that, just from a athlete, being able to support themselves and be advocates for themselves has been such a tremendous, gift to see these players go through this process. So any help there would be gratefully, I'd be grateful.
Yeah, so part of what you guys mentioned at the convention is also that I was hoping we could take a look at it, because I would love for to see what a lot of my players stacked up. I mean, 'cause
Yeah.
we're at a point now we place everything, and we're starting to use a lot of data points here, putting stuff in the clip to see where our putting, everything. I mean, chip
Yeah.
putts, I mean, creating practice, and so I mean, I have an interest in stuff like that because I do think nowadays, especially with minority kids specifically, the more data points you can give them to show them where they stack up,
Mm-hmm.
and you take out all of the hurdles. To me, hurdles would be equipment, access, financial, and info, or which to me always equates to golf IQ. You take
Mm-hmm.
those four things out, you can build a player.
You
I
got it.
always joke with my players. I said it's kind of like building a Mr. Potato Head back in the day. In my day, growing up, you just attach a nose and a head and eyebrows and some lips, and you keep doing what you have to do. And if you follow the same model, you can constantly build a solid player.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. That's exactly why we built the PDI, was to help people understand where they are today, and then how do they actually continue to get better, and what areas they need to get better in. As a matter of fact, you mentioned Cliff. It's a partner of ours. We always say we're the lead factors to the stats, right? So stats are lag factors. It's what's happened. We actually are, why it happens, right? So, understanding skill sets from mental skills, physical skills, and golf skills. You got to know where your skills are, right? And you got to know your strengths and weaknesses, before you set a goal of saying, I got to hit so many greens. You may not have the ability to hit those greens. So we actually give players a really good understanding of kind of where they are in that process, and not leaving them to kind of fend for themselves, if you will, meaning that, I think, you said it earlier, golf is hard, or Ryan said it earlier, golf is hard. And I think sometimes we overestimate our skill sets and underestimate the challenge that's facing us. And I think we try to, close that gap with doing a PDI assessment and things like that for players. So would love to come down or have you guys come up. We actually got, we have 8 of the APGA players coming up in April, going through. We're going to help them with their player development, pathway with Montrell. So we'd love to be able to help your team or players recognize where they are in retrospect to how they might, reach the professional levels, right? You're already doing a great job of developing those players. So
no, I appreciate that. But yeah, all the help, we'll take all the help we can get. Trust me.
Yeah, good. Let's do it.
Well, Coach, first off, again, congratulations on the program, where you've gone since Steph kind of, stepped in and obviously made a big contribution that allowed you guys to keep going. And now what you've done with it, as you said, it's no longer a feel-good story. It's a golf story. You guys are playing really good golf. Best of luck this spring on both the men and the women's side. And certainly we'll be in touch. A lot of good stuff ahead with what we can do and Howard University. So we're excited.
Well, we appreciate it. I mean, it's been fun. The women, we just got back this week. They won 3 tournaments in a row now, and we host also this week. So we're trying to make that 4 in a row. And then our goals of this will be the year. We try NCAAs on both sides. Last year was NCAAs on the men's side. So we're excited. To me, every new day offers a new chance to get that much better, and we're excited about where we're going. I love the players. Very appreciative of the university just kind of saying, hey, let's put the saddle on Secretariat and let's see how fast this horse can run. So it's been a blessing, and we're just going to keep trying to get better. We got a long way to go, but if we follow the process, I think we can get there.
Awesome, Coach. Thanks again for coming on the podcast today.
Thanks, you guys.
Coach. All right. Talk to you soon. All right.
Well, Raj, certainly, you just look at what he's been able to accomplish, and you can see why. I mean, he's a leader of men and women, and he's making a difference, Roger.
He really is. And I tell you, you watch his teams playing, you watch the character, which a lot of his players are coming out of the program with. I mean, I had a young lady who, Kira Cox, who was in our program and went to Furman, played there, then had a 5th year, played at Howard. She said she just absolutely loved being there, and what a great program, what a great person she said the coach was. So that means a lot, I'm sure, as a parent. When your kids are, having a good experience with someone who's mentoring them is always good. And then watching them play all over the world. I mean, seeing Howard in Scotland playing, I mean, seeing him playing in some of the big, NCAA events, it's always great to see, that progress happening. And it tells you when you have access, it definitely works. So Howard is very fortunate that way. They've got a great backer and what they're doing and what he's doing there is really putting the program on the map.
I know I got about 60 seconds, but he brought up Luke Clanton. Luke actually grew up on a driving range.
Yeah.
He was a driving range kid. Now, he obviously played in tournaments all over the world and won a bunch of them. But there's something to be said for, I think if you're a driving range kid or that's what your accessibility is, that doesn't mean you're not going to learn. There's an argument you could make you learn more about golf and shots because you're not going to be hung up playing a course, getting behind people all that time. You are obviously going to get a lot more done. And we think PDI would be for the driving range kids out there. You take PDI with you to the range every day. There's an argument you're going to come out certainly from a skill standpoint ahead of the kid that has a lot of access on a course that is not practicing and is just playing. They're not, you do have to play. It's obviously a huge part of it, getting in the hole. But I mean, Clanton showed you.
Yeah.
You can be a driving range kid where Monday through Friday, that's what your access is. It's hitting buckets of balls on a driving range, chipping, putting at the range, and then you are able to take all those skills to the golf course.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, well, there's another precedent been set. JT, another good one who grew up on a driving range, who said many times, going out there and shagging balls, and just hitting different shots, picking up balls, helping his grandfather, helping his dad. I mean, all of those things are skills being learned, right? So to your point, PDI, it creates that intention that Coach Puryear was just talking about, right? So if you can create that intention every time you have practice, you're going to get better and it's going to translate.
All right, so that is going to do it. Great guest this week. We thank Coach for coming on. We obviously thank you, Roger. Thank our producer and director, Michael Nick. I'm Ryan Burr saying we'll see you back here next week on the Hub of Junior Golf Podcast.